Well, yeah. So the boxes that the mainstream medical clinical world have been given that they can put things in are incredibly narrow. And the history of how those boxes arose is actually fascinating. And there's an excellent PhD thesis by Dr. Brian Spittles that's going to be coming out as a book on Eon Books that you can still download online for free. Now there's a PDF, 2018 Psychosis and Spirituality, Brian Spittles, Spittles. You'll find it as a PDF. And it actually talks about how we got here in a situation where incredibly important experiences that for the rest of human history had generally had some religious or spiritual attribution put on them, and sometimes sense of religious and spiritual value, even if sometimes they look quite weird. If you read the lives of the Catholic saints, for example, they're usually pretty complicated, and the politics around them usually in their lifetime was quite complicated. And a lot of them we would just diagnose today from a clinical mainstream limited point of view, given the boxes that the clinical mainstream has been given, as just being crazy. But that clearly is not the whole story. And as plenty of us who went to medical school, I had already had a bunch of very powerful experiences when I got to my second year of medical school. And we were being taught the standard criteria for psychosis and schizophrenia and bipolar and delusional disorder and adjustment disorder and schizotypal personality disorder. And there were a bunch of my friends who, through psychedelics or meditation or just spontaneous experiences in their own life, had gotten into some of this territory. We were looking at these a little uncomfortably going, there's no option here for us. When we were highly functional people in the top third of our class, generally in a second of 5-tier medical school, doing quite well, and we all went on to become successful, clinicians and families and and contributing to society in reasonable ways, despite the fact that we intentionally had cultivated a lot of these experiences and counted them among the most meaningful, profound, transformative, and valuable of our entire lives. And so that was about 20 years ago for me now, 21 years ago or so, when I was in second year medical school. And such began my dual life of being, on the one hand, where I'm helping all of these people, get into some very powerful experiences, and also dealing with the sometimes very destabilizing and frustratingly challenging nature of some of those experiences that people had gotten into through various ways, going on retreats in various traditions, taking psychedelics to spontaneous experiences, a wide range of how they got into this stuff. But and also recognizing that the way we dealt with all of this stuff is still in the realm of expert opinion. So we have no large clinical outcome studies based on different management strategies for different categories of potentially challenging or existentially disrupting or openings or energetic things or Kundalini stuff or awakenings or dark nights or whatever you want to call this stuff. Pick your favorite maps you overlay on this. And it's also worth knowing that all of us who map this stuff, nearly all of us endlessly fight with each other about the maps. So it's funny, like all these well-meaning people can suddenly get very pissy about exactly what this term means or that term means. We need some kind of clinical we need a broad enough taxonomy where we're not trying to force all this stuff into single ancient terms. We need to expand out our terminological lexicon to embrace this range and a number of different approaches and ways of looking at this. Right now, we're all like, sort of pissing matches over what the A and P means and stuff. It's really childish of all of us, but hopefully with some good science and some good medical linguistics people and some good discussions, we can come up with terms that are more broad to help people map these things in an expansile, inclusive taxonomy that has hopefully some neurobiochemical meanings and some predictors of clinical outcome stuff and all of that is much more extensive and broad than the unbelievably, painfully limited categories that are currently offered in the DSM, ICD-10 and 11 billing codes out of the WHO and other systems. So I don't there's some Latin American and Chinese and Russian, et cetera, versions of some of these systems. And I don't really like any of them either. Which is to say they have substantial room for improvement in ways that I think can really add value to care. So I think clinicians globally would really benefit from some better, more nuanced frameworks. And I think patients would also. And I think patients would be a lot happier with their care if there was some room for nuance, that all of this stuff wasn't just pathological, which we know personally it isn't. I know for certain it isn't. And hundreds of friends and people I've talked with about the stuff and thousands of posts I've read online, I know for certain this stuff can lead to tremendous benefit when it goes right and is managed well, though it can also cause problems also.